Every year, magicians gather from around the world at the McBride Magic and Mystery School in Las Vegas. They come to learn the magic behind the tricks.
What we do at our mystery school is give people a deep magical experience, those that really want to go deeper into the art of magic.
Many magicians are very busy just trying to imitate other magicians, trying to imitate the DVD they saw. The question I'd like you to take home with you is, what do I want my magic to be?
The study and practice of magic is very real. The research, the optical principles, the psychological principles that go into magic take years of study to understand the subtleties. And fitting these all together takes a lifetime.
A new breed of magicians are looking beyond the tricks to the message that magic communicates to an audience.
Magic is a way of looking at the world. Magic is a philosophy. It's a way of challenging perceptions and not accepting what's handed to you.
Magic is not tricks. It is a way. It's about understanding the relationship between magic and life, that your life can be magical.
Magic reminds us that all of that we know can fall away at any given moment, that reality is subject to change without notice.
The primary metaphor of magic is transformation, change. You know that trick with the rings that everyone has seen magicians do? Well, what's that about? Well, on the superficial outward level, it's about rings linking and unlinking. But on the inner level, the psychological level, the message of the rings is the separate can be joined in community, in friendship, in love.
When the magician levitates on stage, he's also saying, hey, it's possible to leave the burdens of the heavy, everyday material world behind and rise above them and consider the possibilities of what's out there that you've never considered before.
Magic reminds us that we are living in the middle of a capital M mystery. Experiencing mystery, understanding that you, me, we're living in the middle of a mystery. This is transformative for our lives and for the world.
Well, everyone, today I am very pleased to have Jeff McBride on our interview today. Jeff McBride, I mean, realistically, if everyone watching this doesn't know, but I'll read the intro anyway. I mean, come on. But Jeff McBride is a recipient of the Magician of the Year Award from Hollywood. Oh, there we go. Jeff McBride is a recipient of the Magician of the Year Award from Hollywood's famed Magic Castle. He has performed on every major television network, most recently on Fullest, where he fooled Penn and Teller. He is the founder and creator of McBride's Magic and Mystery School and was recently awarded one of Magic's top honors, the Special Award for Theory and Philosophy from FISM. Jeff McBride, thank you so much for coming on the interview today. We're honored and it's a pleasure to have you here. So I think our big focus today is talking about your brand new virtual show, Story Master. But first, I'd like to ask all our guests, how did you start? I mean, if for those who don't know your story, what brought you to magic?
Drumming. I wanted to be a drummer. And I was in the library taking out music books. And in the library, right next to the music books, were the magic books. And the Golden Book of Magic by the great Merlini was my first book. I had no other magicians around. And so by default, I became the best magician because I was the only magician and the only one interested in magic in my school in upstate New York. There weren't any performers up there, and the only magicians you would see occasionally were on television. So I took those magic books, and they had a few, magic books, the Walter Gibson books and things of that nature, Will Dexter, and those were my Bibles back then. And I learned and started performing shows, and that was it. I was off and running. And that was about 7, 8 years old.
Wow. And who was besides the book that you discovered, what were your major influences?
Well, anybody that was on TV, and Al Flosso was on TV a bit during that time, and Doug Henning was on. So I was a combination of Doug Henning and Al Flosso. Can you imagine? Mark Wilson.
I can, yeah.
Mark Wilson was on. Hey, I still rock the neck scarf. You always had pictures in the 70s of him, with the jumbo cards with the neck scarf.
Yeah, those are people influenced a lot of magicians. Doug Henning, in particular, influenced a lot of performers, myself included.
Hair, you know what I mean? I'm still rocking the long hair. So yeah, he was a real inspiration. I got to meet with him. I got to work with him in Vegas at the Tropicana when we did a big benefit together. So we got to be friends, and that's great when you can meet your heroes and they become your friends. Like Shimada, I would watch Shimada on TV, and I got to be a friend of his. I would watch Ricky Jay on television when I was like 15 years old, and I became his friend. And that's the great thing about magic, especially in this age. It's a lot easier to meet people over the internet, over Zoom, connect with people that are that you admire or have influenced you. I spend a great deal of time talking with magicians all over the world that have influenced me. During the last couple of years, most of the older magicians that have influenced me, have got their Zoom trip together, so they can get on and we can session together, which is incredible.
At what point did you say, I can do this as a career now?
I never wanted to do anything else. When I was like, 10, 11 years old, I was doing birthday parties, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And I lived in the Catskills, and there was hotels up there and bungalow colonies. I don't know if anybody knows what that little bungalow colonies, little or areas where people would vacation for the summer. And I was in the Catskill Mountains during its last hurrah, the end of its heyday, during the 60s and 70s. And when I was a teenager, I was working all of the resorts. I was working the Concord, Kutcher's, Grossinger's, the Browns Hotel, all of the big hotels up there. I was doing shows, not just in the nightclubs, but also for the family groups as well. So I got my start really young. There was no other young magicians they could hire to do that. I was the only person.
I think we're actually seeing a resurgence in magic circuits to some degree with the pop-ups that have been appearing all over the United States.
Well, that comes a lot from people of my generation, baby boomers, that have toured, their baby boomer magicians who have toured, done cruises, done theater shows, corporate shows, and now they're doing some sit-down stuff. Kaylin and Ginger did their magic venue in Tahoe, and Danny has his thing, and you have yours, and Greg Fruin was touring for years and did his. So yes, all of these different theaters are popping up, the Mystique and Illusions and all of these other venues that support human-sized magic. There's a like parlor style magic is parlor magic, and close-up magic is the new stage magic. When you have people like Shin Lim, who's essentially a card magician, and now he's working Vegas because instead of investing in lasers and dancing, dancers and wild animals, it's, the best camera and the best screen.
Wow. And you're right. I mean, it's like there's like a new evolution in magic to some degree, thanks to modern technology. You kind of pioneered virtual performance and
I've been
schooling.
doing virtual performances and classes 11 years, people. We went online 11 years ago when people had no idea how to do it. They had to download Photon browsers, and I was performing here at Palace Station, doing my Jeff McBride, magic experience at the casino. And my friend AJ Olson and his friend Jeremy came in with this thing called Street of Cards, which was this new streaming technology. And they had this little magic group that would gather, and then they started streaming from Wonderground, my nightclub. Every week they were streaming, and we got into the streaming thing, 11, nearly 12 years ago. And we've been doing it at Wonderground for years and years, streaming out the shows. So when the whole pandemic thing hit and everybody was switching to Zoom, we switched over to Zoom because everybody was doing Zoom. But we started doing workshops on helping people set up their Zoom experiences and getting their Zoom shows running.
So tell us, what is the evolution of your career? So you start off, doing parties and smaller events and that sort of thing, I imagine, and then you eventually evolve. At some point, you get into Vegas and you're performing at casinos after the Catskills.
Well, let me.
How did it evolve?
As I tell you the story, the intention that I want to share with your viewers that are watching right now is how you can maybe apply some of the strategies that help me to help yourself.
Absolutely. That's why I asked. Yes.
It was, and any pro will tell you this, it's doing thousands of shows. And in every situation, I did outdoor sportsman fairs and county fairs and, dog shows, fashion shows, hospital shows, psychiatric wards, strolling charity shows, the B'nai B'rith ladies' luncheons. I did Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, everything. I did everything and worked really cheap. And as soon as I was out of high school, I moved to New York City to train. And that's maybe the other thing, is to train and study with masters. And I studied at the American Mime Theater with Paul Curtis, and I studied jazz at Luigi's Dance Studio, famous jazz dancer choreographer. And I studied with Betsy Haug and trained in mime and trained in martial arts and trained outside of magic. Learned skill sets, theater techniques, and training outside of magic. And maybe that will inspire some people to take improv class, not just improv comedy, but improv theater, which is, you're not always going for the laugh, but you're going to create interesting situations that, evolve in a dynamic way. So studying theater really helped me. And I landed a nightclub gig where I was doing 2 shows a night, 3 shows on Saturday at a place called Club Ibis, which was an Egyptian nightclub. It's still in existence. It's called the Versailles Room on 50th Street, East 50th, between 3rd and Lex. The original Cafe Versailles, Maurice Chevalier and Edith Piaf worked. It was a grand nightclub. When I got there, was an Egyptian nightclub, and they paid $100 a week. And I was there from 5 p.m. to start setting up till midnight or after midnight. Our second show was like 10, 11 o'clock. And so, I was putting in 8-hour days there, 6 days a week for $100. And my friends thought I was crazy. And they would say, "Oh, Jeff, I get $100 a show." And guess what? They still are. Ta-da! But I needed the experience in the shows, and I needed to get seen. And that's what happened. I got seen by some influential people. Bill Barnes, who was Tennessee Williams' manager, and Tommy Toon introduced me eventually to a circle of society, which included Diana Ross. And Diana Ross saw me and went, "That is my magician." And I went on tour for her for 2 years, and I worked Radio City Music Hall many times, 6,000 seats, no camera, no big screen, doing a manipulation act. And I think the only other person that did card fans there might be one other, is Cardini.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, but the view there, even in the balcony, which is like a solid block, city block away, you can still see when it's spotlight, people can still see. And I was a success at Radio City Music Hall, and I went back many, many times. And then I was on the road for them for nearly 2 years when they toured nationally. So I got a lot of exposure there. So what your viewers can learn is do as many shows as you can. Don't worry about the money. Study outside of magic I mean, that's what the whole bizarre magic thing is about. You're studying mystery and folklore and spirituality, and you're studying all these other things that add texture and dimension to the narrative. And that's what I did. And then try to work your way into society. We see this happen with David Blaine did the same thing in a different way. He was doing close-up magic in elite kind of clubs for, for celebrities, for, Leonardo DiCaprio. And remember when he first came on the scene, he had all of this celebrity association. And, it's good to travel in elite circles. It sharpens your game. So that was my trajectory. And then I started being an opening act at Caesar's Palace and then the Golden Nugget for many years. And then I got my own shows at the Las Vegas Hilton. I was headlining. That was the largest venue in Vegas. That was a 3,000 seat theater, biggest proceeding in Vegas. It was Elvis's room. The guy, Joe Gercio, who was Elvis's conductor, saw me and said, "You get in here." And I was in there as an act in the show. And then they made me the headliner.
Yep. Yeah, there are right forms of exposure. There, if you know, you had to pound a payment, you have to hustle. Things aren't going to come to you.
The biggest complaint I get these days, oh, no one's coming to my Zoom shows. I have a friend that does a Zoom show. His name is Joseph Fitzer in Germany. He does a one-on-one Zoom show called The Elephant Show. And he just does it. David Copperfield came to his show. I mean, people come to his show because it's a good show and it's one-on-one. You don't need a big audience. You just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
That's
the
good
size of
advice.
the audience.
So one of your big focuses, in your career has been helping other magicians, helping bring, other people up to a certain level, influencing them. And you've been a big influence to hundreds of people, if not thousands of magicians over the past couple of decades. How did that get started? What made you say, I need to, basically, what is the origin story of Mystery School?
Well, it was really an excuse to hang out with illuminated magicians that had a very different view of what magic could be. And Eugene Berger was one of the prime forces in my life, inspiring me, because realized before I was studying with Eugene, I was a mime. I did not talk on stage for my entire first part of my career, for my 70s and 80s sorcerer career, 20 years, mime. And then I wanted to study. I learned the power of storytelling, the power of narrative, and how to tell a story, and different ways to tell a story and write stories. And we created Mystery School as a way to spend time with Eugene. It started off as just 30 people, and then it grew over the years, and then we kind of pressed the reset button and went back to smaller groups, and again went very big, and then went back to smaller groups. But we spent quality time with Bob Neal, Eugene Berger, Max Maven was our special guest, Charles Reynolds, Peter Samuelson, Stephen Minch, Ormond McGill, Channing Pollock, Johnny Thompson. And these were the kind of people we wanted to spend a week with and sit in small groups and go deep into the magic. And we didn't want to do it in a hotel. We wanted to do it at a retreat center. So over the years, we went to various retreat centers that were, kind of isolated and just not on the grid. So you weren't dealing with the hubbub of every day when you stepped out into a Hilton or a Sheraton or a casino. It's we wanted to just be more of a retreat and more reflective. And we always chose places in nature. And we still hold a lot to that philosophy and that creating that sort of nurturing container for people. When people come here, they can be a beginner magician. We just had some beginner magicians come to one of our live classes. We've opened up live classes for people that are vaccinated, and we do a health check every day, health screening every day. So we're running really safe, but we run small classes, 15, 20 people. And they're multiple day classes where we can really help people. because so much of the industry right now is driven by the magic companies, the online magic companies, the trick of the week. And there are really two different magic communities. There's this online magic community, and then there's kind of the old school magic community. And what I'm interested is people deepening their appreciation in magic. Not everybody that comes to our school is on a career track to be a professional. We have online classes. We have a class coming up in November for people that want to go pro. It's called the Pro Class. And it's Tobias and I, my manager, teaching the business, and I'm teaching the show building and how to create, an effective commercial show for today's audiences. So we meet the students where they are. And that's what Eugene did. He would meet the student where they are and help them create the magic that was part of their vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of magic clubs, IBM, SAM, these are great resources, but they're also a start, they're a beginning, there and there's lots of hobbyists in there that can, that are, but there's also people who want to go pro. And and things like that, they're not often covered in those clubs. How to go pro, how to actually run a business, how to have your social media active, keeping active on that, having newsletters, building your brand, for example, not being a clone of Jeff McBride, but being your own magician as well. There's those are things that are covered. I've been to Mystery School lots of times, virtually, and seen lots of amazing, wonderful advice you're not going to see in a lot of other places, at least not together in one place.
Well, interestingly enough, for people that are interested in studying deeper magic, whether they want to go pro or they just want to deepen their understanding, because we appreciate that too. Not everybody that goes to the opera is an opera singer. Mm-hmm. And not everybody that enjoys magic is a performer. We understand the difference. And we have programs for all different types of magicians, no matter what their level. If they're a trickster and they're just needing to get their skill base together, if they're what we call sorcerer and they're trying to get their stage show and business together, maybe they're a mentalist, maybe they're an escape artist, a street magician, but most people fall into the category of what we call sage, people that are students, historians of magic, they're magic lovers, they're enthusiasts of magic, they may collect, they may appreciate magic, they may perform occasionally, but they wouldn't even call themselves semi-professionals. They do it because they love magic. There's that, I mentioned it to people. That guy Andy from that blog, The Jerks, has a very different kind of take on magic. His whole philosophy is, if you want to be a magic lover and just do magic with your friends, that's a perfect path towards self-fulfillment. You don't have to become a commercial success or to do performance magic or to get on stage in a costume with a spotlight with custom-made music and custom-made props to become the magician you want to be. Just doing magic for your friends socially is just a fine thing and a noble pursuit.
I agree with that.
There's many rooms in the house of magic, for all of us to enjoy. And there's some are more bizarre than others. That's why I'm sitting in my bizarre corner here with yin and yang here.
Well, that's my favorite type of magic, as you know so well. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about storytelling and bizarre, and then we're going to talk about story master coming up. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people that they're card magicians, they're coin magicians, they're people that like the classics. They've been mentored by mainstream magic performers, and they go to clubs and they learn cups and balls and linking rings and that sort of thing. And these can be beautiful and wonderful on their own. But how can and we saw a little bit of this in the video earlier, how can storytelling and even bizarre magic to some degree, help bring those to another level?
in my experience working with Eugene Berger wrote an opening for my show, which in kind of one paragraph approaches a philosophy of magic that we share at Mystery School, that the enchantments of magic point beyond mere illusions to the greater mysteries in life, the eternal transformation of life and death and rebirth. So storytelling points away from the magic to the greater issues and meanings of life, the bigger stories than just, as Eugene used to say, the adventures of the props in the magician's hands. That there are bigger stories to tell, more meaningful stories, deeper stories. And Eugene used to say what people have done in the 20th century, which was when he was, really studying magic and performing magic, that during the 20th century, magicians did something rather incredible. They took an art that was inherently profound and trivialized it. And what the bizarre movement was doing was taking these narratives and rituals and symbols of the occult, of the bizarre, of the weird, of the strange, and infusing magic with a darker energy, a chthonic energy, an energy that was powerful and unknowable and literally awesome. And that's what the bizarrists were bringing to this magic, was trying to maybe reattach magic, the tree of magic, to its shamanic roots, because it was cut down and sawed up and made into flip over boxes, the tree of magic, So at Mystery School, what we were doing was exploring, going back a little bit further than the kind of Gothic narratives that Tony Andruzzi and, the other bizarres, Tony Raven, they were doing more of the kind of Gothic revival. And we decided to study way back, and we got into Rogan Taylor and started studying the Death and Resurrection show, and Michael Harner and shamanism, and Stephen Larson, the Shaman's Doorway, and trying to find out where this magic stuff comes from and why it's lasted so long, and what happened when the magic kind of split from the ritualistic. And if you read Sam Sharp, especially the book Art and Wonder, and if you really want to get a great read, if you're a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, you have access to the Ask Alexander archives, and in there, the members of the IBM get access to the linking ring. And Sam Sharp, if you go back a number of years, look up Sam Sharp and put in quotation marks, the Magus Ritual, and you will have some real soul food to connect magic to storytelling and ritual theater, and what he calls sacerdotal magic. And that's what I was very interested in, was sacerdotal magic that touches upon the sacred, that transcends the tricks and points to higher states of consciousness. And a man that knew this stuff inside out, who was a student of it his whole life, is Sam Sharp. And a person that really knows it, that's still alive today, who is accessible, and I speak to him now, weekly or monthly, is William Rauscher, the Episcopalian minister who spent a lifetime researching magic. I have his new book here, which is an awesome book that everybody should get. Let me show it to you. Weird and Awesome Wonders.
Ah,
yeah.
Nice. That showed up on my search list recently.
Barnum and Curiosities and Fiji Mermaid, and it's incredible book. Talks about freaks and geeks and sideshow, and it's filled with color plates, and it goes into Hubert's Dime Museum on 42nd Street. I'm still connected with two people that worked Hubert's freak show back in the day. So yeah, there's still, masters around with incredible information. And he wrote a book, William Rauscher, on religion, spirituality, and seance. Hello. And this thing is like a doorstop book. It's as big as the Golden Dawn book. It's incredible. And look for William Rauscher's books. They're incredible bios. And his story is quite amazing too. So, to kind of tie this up, study with master storytellers. I did. It'll help your magic.
That is wonderful advice. And we have our first question, which will help us segue into the next part. Alexander Pinedo, I hope I'm saying that correctly, says, "What's your point of view on bizarre magic done today? It can't be the same as before." It's a question. Is it more advanced now?
Well, I think people are taking it into different, areas. Still, a lot of it is based around Victorian and Gothic themes. And Max Maven said, I want to see more Shinto bizarre magic. I want to see more, Hawaiian Huna bizarre magic. I want to see bizarre magic that's influenced by other cultural traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So are there magicians that are really taking it in there, or is it all H.P. Lovecraft live?
Yeah, that's a good point. I like to think that I've been bypassing H.P. Lovecraft myself more recently, the past few years.
Who put it? It was so funny. It was at the Seance Summit that we hosted.
David Parr said something about, and we had talked, I think we came up for that together, was Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft on the Titanic chasing down Jack the Ripper with Sherlock Holmes or something like that.
That was it. That's, right.
But yeah, it's the basis of too much bizarre magic is on these tropes. But we should remind people that when Edgar Allan Poe wrote his stories, most of them, not all of them, but most of them were contemporary stories. Lovecraft talked about the time period he lived in.
Right.
It's time for modern writers and scripters of bizarre magic to focus on modern stories.
Yeah. Where is the cyber bizarre?
Yeah. Yep. What about all that ghost hunting technology out there?
Right. Well, that's coming into it more and more.
Mm.
That's coming in more and more. But I think that explores, that teases the edge of the question that was just, look outside of the well-worn paths of bizarre magic for new genres, new images, new symbols, new narratives. When you look at, let's look at the movies today, where they're going. Is there, what was the Ex Machina, that wonderful movie? Where's the bizarre magic that's in that genre? Where is what was the other movie about the computer? She,
yep, that's right. Yep.
Where's the bizarre magic that's informed by this kind of interface with
artificial intelligence and that sort of thing? Yeah.
With artificial intelligence. Mostly it's about demons and angels and spirits. How about artificial intelligence being the malevolent force in the experiment?
Yeah, Copperfield has an alien in his show now.
Right. And Robert Anton Wilson has a book called The New Inquisition, which talks about the evolution of these states of consciousness, people hearing gods in Greek times, Hellenistic times, angels, demons, and then the evolution in the 60s of space aliens, invaders from space, or space brothers. And now these entities, these constructs or forms in the human psyche, take on new modernistic projections. So now they're aliens in spacecraft instead of demons in dragon-driven chariots.
That's
pushing into new territory, perhaps.
Yeah, it's untapped territory that isn't.
But it's up to the story. There's storytelling, and then there's story writing. There's people that to pass on the old stories, and then there's the people that write the new stories. And I think there's new stories to be written.
Yeah, bizarre magic to me is thought provoking. It's philosophical. It is gets your audience thinking about topics. It doesn't have to be so ingrained into an ideology that existed 100+ years ago.
No, I mean, if I had two alien gray masks here and was talking to you about when I was beamed up to the ship for this encounter, or we have to assemble this machine instead of light candles to converse. Right?
You're right, and it's interesting. You have so many magicians that have the Golden Age magic posters hanging in their walls, and those magicians. And if you ever, and I know you have, but if you ever actually get your hands on a Dante script or a program from that day and look at how they used to do shows, these were evenings, extravaganzas, with the intermission where, there was miming and storytelling and exposition, that happened. Many of the Golden Age magicians were members, and I want to tout Baltimore, my hometown, a little bit, were members of an exclusive Baltimore organization known as the Demons Club. A precursor to Sam, believe it or not, became like Yogi Magic or something like that, and then it became Sam. But there was an organization in Baltimore called the Demons Club, and members included Dante, Thurston, Keller, and Harry Houdini at different points. It was started by Thurston Worthington III here in Baltimore City. And it may have influenced all those magic posters with imps and demons. You can, if you have a collection of, and I'm sure you do, but if you have a collection of what is it? The old, not the Jinx. There's it appears in there a couple of times. There's reference to that, and there in older published magazines. You can see references to it.
Well, the Jinx is great because that's online and searchable too. Or no, I have a CD-ROM of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time in the Jinx. That's great too. But nothing beats sitting there with the books, which is so wonderful.
Exactly.
I was thinking, what do you think? Do you think there's more people interested in Victorian seance? Because I love it too. I mean, I don't live in a high-tech home.
There's a place for it.
In a Gothic curiosity shop. But let me finish the thought. Since we're on this trajectory and we're talking about writing the new stories, do you think there's more people interested in Gothic kind of Victorian seance, or UFOs and that sort of stuff? Which conferences are bigger, UFO cons or seance cons?
Oh, UFO cons.
Well, how about taking everything we know and putting it towards that genre and creating the alien encounter? This, the space, instead of the spirits tipping the table, it's getting beamed up to the ship. I'm just saying.
You're right. There's a big increase in interest in modern witchcraft. Speaking of, shamanistic thought processes, that's got a resurgence currently. It's huge. For those who are young enough to follow TikTok, there's witch talk on there where people are talking about witchcraft and sorcery,
and there was witch
natural magic
before that.
Yep, exactly. So
before that, it was just like covens you had to track down on Larry Cornett's newsletter. That was the only way to find out where the gatherings were back in the 80s. Abigail and I met at a gathering called Rites of Spring in the Berkshires for the Earth Spirit community.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and we were both. I was studying Golden Dawn and Thelema and shamanism, and she was studying African drumming and Wicca, and that's how we met. We met at a fire.
Nice, that's beautiful. That's also a great story to help us segue into Story Master.
Ah, yes.
Yep. So tell us about Story Master, your latest foray into Zoom performance.
I was doing If people are familiar with the kind of typology of the mystery school, trickster, sorcerer, oracle, sage, I'm doing a story cycle, which is 4 epic stories. The first one was called Magic Quest. The second was called Magic Masks and Monsters. This one is called Story Master. And then there's going to be a new release in the new year, which is Jeff McBride and the Stars of Magic, which is going to be a series, its own series. And I ran Magic Quest, which was my origin story and my history of magic. And we ran that for a number of months, and it was very well received. And we wanted to kind of stop it right at its height so it didn't, trickle out. And then we started another show that we launched called Magic Masks and Monsters, which was specifically, Samhain, Halloween, turning of the year stories. Story Master is a holiday show, and this is the family-friendly show. It's Jeff at my fire, at my hearthside, telling stories, and we at different locations around the house. And we also have 4 guest storytellers from different traditions. So it's not just all, Western European stories. There's stories from around the world, some from Asia, and there's also it's interactive as well. And that we're only doing it one day. We were only doing these special events. So it's Saturday, December 18th at noon for Europe and Asia, so they can come. And then we have a 6 p.m. Pacific show for people that are in the USA or in the Americas, as it were, in those time zones. And I've cherry picked my favorite stories that I've learned from over the years for this particular show. And you'll see some things you've never seen before. All of my shows, I don't repeat any material.
Nice.
I did my first show is an hour show with a half an hour after party, 90 minutes. The second show, Magic Masks and Monsters, did not repeat anything. And in this third show, no repeats. And there's some pieces I have been performing since the mid 1970s that no one has ever seen. And I'm bringing those to the Story Master.
Wow.
And then in the new year, I launch a new show where I MC, basically like Wonderground, other magicians from around the world. And it's a different show every other month.
So you said you're doing things you've never done before. Why is now the time?
Oh, it's not that I've never done them before. I've performed them since the 70s, but no one's seen them because I only do them for private gatherings.
Okay. So same question.
I never do it in public shows. I only do it for my home theater experiences.
Oh, fantastic. That's
wonderful. One of the things that I do, and many people don't know this, is I help other, mostly magicians, that have homes design a tour of their home with magic installations and magic effects. As you give somebody a tour of your home, we create these magical experiences depending on the architecture and the layout of the house. And this is stuff we've been doing for 30 years at Mystery School. And I don't want to tell you specifically what happens, but sometimes there's a few jump scares and sometimes there's some sit-down experiences. But I design the experience with the person I'm working with to design an experience built around their personal stories in their lives. So if a person is interested in Alice in Wonderland, we build an Alice in Wonderland installation in their home. If they're interested in Jules Verne, we'll do a Jules Verne adventure in one room. So we take each room and theme the room for a magical experience. And the tours can be either half an hour or 3-hour tours, depending on the desire of the person, and I guess the magical interest of their guests.
That's actually really clever. What kind of inspired you to put that together like that? I mean,
it happened because I've been giving tours of the Magic and Mystery School here for over 20 years. And what I wanted to do is when people walk in, they go to installation I know where I'm going to take them, and I know the order I'm going to take them. And each room is set up with a performance. And that can either be a one effect show or a much more extensive show. So I can show the room, do something, or we can sit down in the room and I can create a much larger experience. And over the years, many friends that have come here see how I do that and want to learn the process. So I teach on Zoom all day, every day. I teach on Zoom all day, every day, at least 4 classes a day, mostly private one-on-one classes from people that are working on their magic, building their career, or designing home theater experiences, or just need a guide to help them through this, incredibly busy, noisy world of magic. I help people cut through the noise and get clear signal on how to manifest their vision.
Fantastic. And I have a link on the screen there. Easy to remember. There'll be links in the description too. It's this bit.ly/StorymasterMcBride will take you right to the ticketing page so you can read up on what to expect in his latest new virtual show. And you can get tickets right there. So it's a for the magicians watching, which of course is pretty much everyone watching right now. It's a great learning experience, and hopefully it'll help inspire. I've seen Jeff perform virtually. So he puts on a great show. He's one of the, like you said, been doing it for 11 years. So long before the pandemic and the advent of the popularity of virtual shows, he was already performing them. So you can learn a lot from seeing how it's done right. But also just have a great time and enjoy the show,
And and the guests, there's so many great guests. And like I say, the show is not recorded. You'll never see it again. That I don't put my stuff out on TikTok or in like performance stuff to get like dissected and taken apart. And like, I just don't play that game. I think magic, the way I like to present magic is very intimate and not just eye candy. I'm much more about soul food.
Wonderful. So what else would you like to tell? What else you have coming up? What else would you like to tell everyone about that you have?
Well, we have Mystery School Monday every Monday for the past 543 Mondays. We've been having a live class, and each class is really geared to how you become a better magician, a more thoughtful, more knowledgeable, more capable magician. And we have 543 episodes waiting for you there if you become a member. And with some of the great names in magic, a lot of Eugene in there, and Johnny Thompson and our friends from Vegas. So we have that archive for you. And we have another archive called the Pep Talks, which are performance, entertainment, and philosophy. And these are short, like 18-minute talks that we've been doing for nearly 15 years now. We've been doing them. So when we first began, we have to tell people there's this thing called the TED Talk, which takes these interesting concepts and boils them down into their essential elements. And we do that with magic. We've been doing it a long time. It's like the TED Talks of magic. And there's a lot of great material in our Pep Talks that are sitting there in our archive. So we have this incredible archive that if you want to study magic instead of just turning on Netflix and vegging out, this is a resource where you can dive deep into magic and get training and it's entertaining and it's meditainment. It's entertaining, real good wisdom teachings from really knowledgeable magicians and other performance artists in our community. And it's there waiting for you. So that's, go to magicalwisdom.com. You got right there, become a member, and you can have access to all of this. The other thing we have is our online classes. Check out our online classes. We have in January coming up with Larry Haas, Masters and Mentors. And these are people that we personally studied with that were teaching you what made us a better magician and teaching the presentational strategies and the routines and methods that we learn from them. So the first one is I'm going to be talking about Jeff Sheridan, Frank Garcia, Slidini, Harry Lorraine, and teaching what they taught me. Eugene is going to be covered by Larry, along with Juan Tamarez and Tommy Wonder. So this class is about the personal teachings that they passed on to us, and we're going to pass it on to the students that show up.
That's fantastic.
Probably a better investment than a card switch gimmick from the greatest online place.
Yeah, I agree.
Or thread reel. Yeah, we need another one of those.
Yeah. Yep. You can never have too many.
How about another wallet?
Another wallet.
Eugene said,
but it's the latest thing, Jeff. It's the latest thing. It's not like anything you've ever seen before. Yeah, but yeah, that's not.
There are so many people in the marketplace hawking for your money.
Yeah.
And what we do is tell people to just zero in on a couple of stories that really can express your soul, and we help them find good magic that's within their skill range to illustrate that story.
Mm-hmm. A gimmicky magic trick is if you feel like there's something wrong with your show that's not quite right, a gimmicky magic trick is not going to save your show. It's learning from mentors, and reevaluating yourself and your presentation will save your show.
Right.
Yeah. But
and
not
sit down with those books. It's like I spend too much time on the internet. I love working with students, but when the time comes, I love turning it off. And I have my books. I have my Seth Godin book here. Oh, you got this one? Huh?
Yep, I have that one.
Yeah, that's that one. And I got my Neil Scryer book here by Richard Webster. And let's see, I'm learning new era card tricks. And I think we were talking about this the other day.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, I have my reading cut out for me today.
I just got Larry's new book in.
So, the Final Secrets by Eugene.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
So
you got to come and visit the Magic and Mystery School. It'll blow your mind, and I'll give you.
Yeah, I gotta get Larry to sign it. That's right.
Yes.
So.
And we have a lot of magical treasures here. I collect some of the strangest curiosities and magic effects from around the world, and I love blowing people's minds with them. So this is, the tour is really for magic aficionados. If you get the long tour, I show you the gimmick collection, which is drawer after drawer after drawer of the weirdest, strangest magic vintage gimmicks that go way back. That's my real passion, is collecting, and I get them sent to me now from collectors around the world that they don't know what they are, and they send them to me. So yeah. Chip Romero just sent me a little cachet of strange gimmicks. Some of them I had never seen before, but they go right into the collection, and I research them. So come.
I want the long term
school.
I want the long tour for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, you'll get that. Well, the classes are 3 days or 7 days, 8 hours a day. So you'll get the long tour. 8 hours a day. Yeah, that's the long tour.
Well, I think that's about wraps things up for thank you so much. And don't forget to check out the link below. You can see it I put some in the chat. It'll be up on YouTube, in our descriptions and that sort of thing. Forever basically. But you can only watch this show live.
Our show is on live. This is it. You don't get to see it. It's you either come at noon Pacific time, which is your 3 p.m. on the East Coast.
That's right.
Or Europe, it's in the evening, but at least earlier in the evening, or we're at high noon or 6. Your choice. And it'll be a lot of fun, and you'll see some new stuff, and you'll hear some great stories.
Yeah, you can watch this interview forever, but you can only see that show.
That's right.
Link.
This was delightful. Let's work on an alien seance. Does anybody do an alien seance?
I have toyed with so I went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia with Vlad. You know Vlad, of
Oh,
course.
sure.
Yeah, we were doing a show in Illinois near Chicago. And on the way back, we stopped at Point Pleasant, and we stopped at this hotel there called the Low Hotel, which is the heart of haunted stories in Point Pleasant. Of course, Point Pleasant is home of the Mothman.
Oh,
That,
okay, Mothman.
that's right. If you recognize the name, that's where you recognize it from. Is
Right,
Mothman. It was
Mothman.
which is UFOs and other dimensional beings. I wrote the outline of a script that night, and then put it and started putting together. So I have a whole script in the works for a UFO seance show involving the Mothman and
There
Men
we
in Black
go.
and everything.
And that's how it begins.
Yeah,
That's how, and then it's not red velvet. It's going to be all like steel and aluminum and neon.
yeah.
And instead of going into the dark, you go into the light.
That's right.
It's turning it upside down. It's inverting it.
Yep.
You see,
lasers are not used enough in
well,
bizarre magic.
one of the formulas is you invert, you turn something on its head, you turn it upside down. David Morey, who wrote a book on innovation, and he also wrote a book on creating business magic, talks about inverting. And you see this kind of creativity. A simple example is, how many years did it take for them to turn the ketchup bottle upside down? Right?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're not wrong. Yep. How long did it take them to figure that out?
How long did it take? Like, let's not do this. Let's just start there. Let's gravity's your friend. Hello. So now maybe the new circle, the new mystery circles they'll go from darkness into light instead of starting in the light and go into darkness. You heard it here first, folks. Write the new story. We'll see you at the Story Master.
And that's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jeff. It's great seeing you again. Talk to you soon.
Beam me up.